Hello and welcome to What's Happening in Myanmar, a new weekly show from the Frontier Myanmar podcast family. I'm your host, Luke Corbin. At Frontier, we know how hard keeping up with all the news in Myanmar can be. And in this podcast, I'm joined by journalists and experts to chat over some of the most consequential, convoluted, or just plain interesting stories from the past week. Today, it's Friday, December 6, 2024, and for our sixth episode, I will be joined by R. Lakher, an independent analyst from Chin State, who focuses on politics and India-Myanmar relations. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, hello, Luke. Thank you so much for having me in your podcast.
Yeah, of course. We're very happy to have you here. But before we get into our discussion, I'll quickly go into some of the week's news. Starting with electricity. The improvement of electricity supply and distribution in Myanmar was interrupted by the 2021 military coup, and while the country's lack of power is not new, this week some whats of interest were brought to light by Radio Free Asia. According to the State Administration Council, last month, the maximum electricity generated per day in parts of Myanmar under military rule was only 2,376 megawatts, but the demand is around 5,500 megawatts. That means less than half the electricity that is needed is being generated, as admitted by the military. And while the army seems comfortable admitting this 50% shortfall in its provision of power for the people, those living in even the wealthiest military-ruled townships and those in areas economically important to the country, like industrial zones, report that, in fact, only 4 hours of electricity per 24-hour day is the norm. The only part of the country that receives regular supply of electricity is Naypyidaw, where the generals reside. Now on to power of a different kind. Direct Chinese pressure on resistance armies in northern Shan State has been building for weeks, as Frontier has been covering. Border crossings have been shuttered, and Peng Da-sun, the leader of the Myanmar National Democratic Alliance Army, or MNDAA, has had an extended stay in China, with rumours, denied by China, that he was being kept against his will. All this reached an apogee on Tuesday, with the MNDAA formally announcing it is now ready to talk peace with the Myanmar military, along with Chinese mediators. Joining its allies, the Da'an National Liberation Army, or TNLA, who issued a similar statement just last week. To facilitate this, the MNDAA declared a unilateral ceasefire, but also demanded the Myanmar military stop its airstrikes. The military so far has made only one public comment, saying that the offers are not genuine. For more background on this complex conflict, skip back to episode 1 of this show, where analysts discussed the dynamics of northern Shan State, the MNDAA's victories, and their ability to endure in Lashio. And while the TNLA and the MNDAA are now supposedly open for talks, they do have an alliance partner that isn't. The Arakan Army, or AA, is still attacking and still defeating the Myanmar military in Rakhine State. After taking control of the town of Dang Up last week, this week the AA focused on military camps outside that town, including a military operations command headquarters. It's a similar situation for the AA in An Town, where it rules the town and continues to besiege the Western Regional Operations Command, HQ. That headquarters has held firm against the AA for weeks, with multiple reinforcements sent to bolster the HQ by road, air, and sea, often coming under ambush. There have been few updates regarding the AA's ongoing efforts in Maungor and Gua, though witnesses indicated to Naranjara News that the military sent over 13 vehicles, including 5 tanks, to Gua Township this week. And just over the northern mountains in Chin State, armed resistance groups have also had successes this past week of major note. The Chinland Council and allies took 4 outposts in a strategic area close to Hakka. Now, apparently 2 more camps remain. If those were taken too, then the groups would be able to directly threaten the military in the Hakka urban area. Of course, intense urban fighting has affected most of the towns in Chin State, and airstrikes in the cities are still a daily occurrence. Like in other parts of Myanmar, the conflict has led to huge displacement, but unlike those displaced from, for example, eastern Myanmar, most of the people who fled from Chin state fighting have sought shelter inside India. There are around 50,000 refugees in Mizoram state of India alone. And our guest, R. Lakher, has just published an opinion piece in Frontier Myanmar arguing that major shifts in national and state-level policies are needed to help these vulnerable people. Let's talk about that opinion piece. So, given there are Myanmar refugees in other states in India and in Bangladesh, why did you focus on Mizoram state in particular, R. Lakher?
The refugees in Mizoram are receiving the less attentions, especially in the international media and the international community, especially the donors. Among the donors, they are receiving under aid, under support due to various challenges and various difficulties. So I decided that I need to raise the voice of these voiceless, these marginalized, vulnerable refugee who are silently struggling in a Mizoram in a unique way. I mean, different from other refugee who are from different place.
And in your view, why are they not being supported the same way as some other refugees in other parts of neighboring countries are being supported?
So there are many reasons. The first one will be because of the lack of recognition by government of India. India is not a signatory to the 1951 Refugee Convention and another protocol, refugee protocol. So India does not officially recognize them as refugee, but often address them as like an illegal immigrant or displaced population, something like that. That's the reason why even the media, international community, does not realize that the existence of the refugee in a Mizoram. That would be one reason, and the second one is the presence of media also is international media is less like in Mizoram. Unlike Thailand, there are also many Myanmar refugee in Thailand, Bangladesh, Cox's Bazar, but many media, international media, cover about them. But in Mizoram, it's less cover. And the third reason will be the even the international organization, including the United Nations, UNHCR. They are not present in the Mizoram, even though there are a significant number of refugee in Mizoram. There is a lack of the advocacy, media coverage, and the lack of international community organization in Mizoram that make them less supported, less coverage, and less aid.
Right. So if they're not classed as refugees in India, what can and what can't these people do? For example, do they have access to education or healthcare?
Despite the central government reject the coming of the Myanmar refugees, especially Chin, into Mizoram, the Mizoram government, the state government, also the civil society, non-governmental organization youth, student bodies, they welcome them, they accept them. They informally, unofficially, they have many many right. They enjoying many right, like they have the right to go to talking about the education. They open the door, the school door for the refugee students if they would like to join. However, they face many challenges because they came from different system, different country, with totally different education system. Like in Burma, they go to school, they learn education by heart system. But here is that the system is very different. The teaching media is in English, like Mizo, Hindi. So even though they can go to the public school in Mizoram, they face many challenges compared to the local Mizo students. So yeah, they have the right to go to school, they have the right to education, but they face many challenges. And similarly, in health, sector. The hospitals, the clinic are open for them. Any refugee can come and do their medical checkup. But the problem is that when there's a high cost of the health, if they have to do operation, if they have to like pay a lot of money for their health, they are not able to do it because they are refugee, they don't have money. But the local people, they have the insurance, they can take loans from the bank, from the hospital. So for the refugees, like very challenging, even though they have the right, but they still like they need a lot of extra support, so that they can enjoy the full their full right, even in education, even in the health, and even in like other like livelihood. Like it's very different from other, I think, Bangladesh or Thailand. Some refugee like they settle pattern is very different. The displaced pattern in Mizoram is like very different. So they live, they settle in a village where they are okay with. So they have like the freedom to choose where they want to settle in which part of Mizoram, which district, which village they want to settle, as long as they are okay with a particular village or community members, leaders. So some they are allowed to cultivate some farms. They are allowed to do some small like a business, but in many part they are not allowed to do those things, like to have animals. They are not allowed to open shop. They are not allowed. Like if they are given the like basic economic right to do some kind of economic activity, they're opening shop, like growing farms, rice, crops, etc., they will be like sustaining themselves, even if they don't receive enough sufficient support from the outside, from the donors. They will be like sustaining themselves by having farms, rice. So yeah, so they have right, but they are not enjoying full of their right. They have so many limitations, so many challenges.
Right. So, what are organizations currently doing? How are they reaching these people? And what are the challenges in helping these, 50,000 Myanmar refugees in Mizoram state?
Yeah, so the refugee like issue in Mizoram is like a new phenomenon, like a new phenomenon starting from like 2021 after the military coup. So there are very less number of existing organizations which are working for the humanitarian sectors in Mizoram. For the refugee, like for emergency response, there are like very limited number of NGO in Mizoram working for the Myanmar refugee, but there are few organizations. But since they are also newly established organization, they don't have proper organizational structure, organizational policies such as like HR policy, such as like finance policy. They could not receive fund from the donor, from international donor, because to receive a big some amount of certain amount of fund from external like organization from outside other country, they need to prove like a due diligence, or that they have certain number of work experience in that particular humanitarian area. So this newly established organization, they are trying hard to help to support the refugee, but they don't have the organizational capacity. They didn't have enough human resources. So the donor also cannot trust them to like to pay the money for the refugee, and that is one big challenges for them. And the second one is the lack of, as I mentioned earlier, like a lack of recognition by government of India. That's why they could not register the organization in India. So many donor ask them like the license of the organization, the bank account, which register with the name of the organization. So many of them lack of that. They don't have bank account, they don't have license registered in India. So the donor cannot like give them the money to help the refugee, because the donor side also is correct to do that, because they need some accountability of the finance which they give to them. So they don't have, many of them lack of that. That's the reason why, yeah, they could not function, they could not operate effectively for the refugee. And the other one is like there's a lack of coordination among the organization as well. If there's a strong coordination among the newly established organization, like I think more than 10, 13 of them, as far as I know, between 13 and 15 of them are there, like newly established small grassroots organization. If they come together, they can lobby the state government or the central government of India that to help them in like to find a way so that they can work together more for the refugee. Recently, we have seen like there's a national like unity association who has taken this initiative, creating the platform for all small grassroots organization helping for the refugee come together. But like they are not moving forward. They came together already, but they need to like advocate. They need to talk to the state government or other bigger organization as one, so that they can solve the challenge that they are facing, and they can come together. That will make them stronger and more vocal. So I think that is still need to, if they can solve that problem, if they can overcome, then ultimately the refugee on the ground will receive better, I mean, more support through that kind of coordination. Yeah.
Wow, thank you for that detailed response about the organisations. Now I think I should ask you about government. You've mentioned the national level and the state level government. You've said that ratifying the Refugee Convention would be good for the national government to do, but I wonder what could the state government do, the Mizoram state government? Because, of course, in India's political system, the state government has a lot of power and doesn't necessarily need to comply with the national government.
So the state government has certain, I mean, they have the power to do like many things. So even including the refugee issue. But the problem is that even though they welcome them, the refugee, as I mentioned earlier, education, healthcare, and livelihood, and many other area, they still need a lot of support. So the state government, I think, if they can like work more systematically, they have the capacity and they have the potential to be able to do much more than what they are doing now for the refugee. They need to develop, they need to have a written policy where the public can see and give recommendation, give the suggestions on that particular policy. All the public, all the stakeholder can share their insight, their feedback, their comment on that particular refugee policy on Myanmar refugee. So, but now they are lacking that. They don't have the proper policy for the refugee. They welcome them and they give them some certain right, but they need to have a written policy. Yeah, and they need to like more advocate. They need to more engage with the stakeholder NGO, which we mentioned earlier, who are working, who are helping the refugee in Mizoram. They need to come together. They need to like the state government can organize, like can come as a third party, mediate for all like NGO organization to come together and helping them distribute the aid effectively so that there will not be repetition, there will not be unequal distribution. Some now what we're seeing is that the refugee from living in the particular district is receiving like more than those who are receiving another district, another area. So to solve those kind of unequal, unsystematic distribution of the aid, the state government can like mediate, can tell the NGO who are working for them, like this area is lacking, this area has not received any aid so far. So they can like redirect or like redistribute so that they will receive equal distribution. So first is that they need to have written policy, and they need to like share publicly, or they need to invite all the stakeholder so that they can share the comment, the suggestion, the feedback of the policy, and they need to update it like yearly because the refugee situation change in Mizoram as well. And the third one is they can like mediate all the NGO grassroots organization come together so that there will be equal distribution.
Thanks. You've definitely given those recommendations for the state government some thought. And your response has kind of reminded me of a scenario that you see sometimes whereby host communities don't want to provide too many services to refugees because they are expected to return soon, especially when there's just a land border separating host communities from refugees' place of origin. And that makes me think, have there been many returns from this community in Mizoram state back to their homes in Chin state since the 2021 coup?
Yeah, we have seen like a couple of refugees returning their home, because if we look at the security situation dynamic in Chin State, it has changed a lot within 3 years. The revolutionary forces have taken more than 50 military junta camps. Like for example, LMP town is a small town in Matupi. There was a fight. There was a clash between revolutionary forces CDF and the junta. In that particular period, the people flee. The people were displaced and they came to Mizoram as a refugee. But now they have taken and they are now under the control of the CDF local people forces. So those people have most of them have come back to that particular their hometown, LMP. But majority of them are still remaining because there is often airstrike. There's also the conflict among the Chin forces. So yeah, many of them are still remaining, but some of them have already returned. We have seen that.
Okay, you've referred to this intra-Chin sort of competition and conflict that's going on in Chin State. So even though Chin State is quite small and sparsely populated, the armed groups that are resisting the military have banded into two opposed factions since the coup. That they are the Chinland Council and the Chin Brotherhood. So, in your view, as an analyst from Chin State, does this disunity affect their military capacity? Does it affect these two factions' abilities to better resist the military in Chin State, to free Chin State? And does it have any impacts on local civilians, on their livelihoods and on refugees?
Many people said that the split into two among the Chin armed group affect hugely their ability to liberate the whole Chin state. It affect the military capacity, and it caused the delay of the liberation of the whole Chin state. That might be true, but personally, I don't think that way. I mean, talking about the military capacity and their ability to liberate, to fight against the junta, my thinking is opposite. That is like when there's a split, there's a competition among the two. Like for example, when Chin Brotherhood took one town, the other group they also start fighting a new operation because they are competing for the public support and the territorial control among themselves. So unless only if they have victory, only if they can win if they can take one military coup, they will get more support from the people. That's why there's a good competition. There is one good thing out of so many bad things of that the split. I mean divisions among them, but definitely there are many a negative consequence of that split. The first one will be when there's lack of unity, as there's a proverb say, together we stand, divided we fall. So yeah, we of course we are weak, and to rebuild the unity among Chin, it's gonna be very difficult. We need to build trust, and we need to start from very zero level, and it will be taking a lot of time to rebuild that unity. So it's easy to break the unity, but to rebuild is very difficult. So there's one of the negative consequence, and the second one is, of course, it has a big impact negatively, hugely among the civilian people, because there is already we have seen within 1 year after the split, there have been a clash among themselves. So many young people, innocent, brave young people, they joined the CDF Chin Am group to fight against the military junta and for the liberation of Chin state, for the federal democracy. But what is happening now is they are fighting against each other. The brother, they are fighting Chin among young innocent people fighting each other, killing each other. There's very sad things what we're seeing. So those things those are negative consequences, and there's a roadblock each other. They block each other. Like even if the civilian want to cross, want to go to another township, they will be labeled as you support that particular group, you are from that group, so you are not allowed to pass through this gate. So there's a lot of check in the gate, and there's even among civilian there's arrest by another group. So those things are like very sad things and negative consequence of the division among themselves. But militarily talking, division there's a competition among them. There's a good things, but there are so many negative consequences as well, politically, socially, and especially among the civilian and even the refugees. Some refugees want to go back to their home, but they could not because of the split among themselves. For example, Matupi is like the largest, the biggest town in the southern part of Chin State and the largest military outpost have been already taken. But so many Matupi refugees are in Mizoram, like, but they could not go back now because there's a split between Chin Council and Chin Brotherhood in Matupi. That's why only a few households have returned to Matupi.
Thank you for being so candid. I want to pursue this direction a little bit more. In Chin State, there aren't only three, armed actors, these two Chin alliances that are competing, and then the Myanmar military, but there's also the Arakan army, who took over Balewa township in the southwest of Chin State and now control it. Now, that township, though, is a majority Chin population area, and there are a lot of tensions there. So I wanted to ask you about maybe Balewa in general. Maybe many foreigners don't know much about that area, strategic area, and also whether that occupation or liberation, depending on your point of view, has also resulted in Chin refugees going to Mizoram.
Yeah, like Balewa is now undissolved and disputed area, especially among the Arakan army and Chin armed group. And the issue is sensitive and it is deep. Like we need to study historically, socially, and like the context. In the modern time, Balewa like is one of the 9 township in the Chin state, and all the people, like almost all the people, agree that Balewa is a part of Chin state. But now what we have seen is that the historically, also when the Balewa Burma is under the rule of British, British put them as a part of like a Arakan Hill administration. So there's a historical dispute as well. However, after Balewa is under the control of the Arakan army, we have seen many news that many Palewa refugee have fled Palewa and coming to Mizoram because of Arakan army, establishing their Arakan like way of governance, Arakan way of like a justice system, which local people, Palewa, like Chin people, don't accept them. They don't want to follow Arakan way of. There's a clash between CDF armed forces, Chin armed forces, and Arakan army. So like many civilian in Palewa are accused, like Arakan army also has violated many human rights in Palewa. We have seen like many report, but I personally, I don't know, I would agree it or not because I have not seen the evidence as well on the ground myself. But there's a report. Now what we've seen is like. Palewa is like a very strategic place as well for politically, geopolitically, security, in terms of security, in terms of economics. It's a very strategic place, like Burma, India and Bangladesh, like a meet in Palewa. So it's like Udal Triangle. We can say that, and there's a route like a sea route. There's a land route and there's air route. So especially it's equally important for Arakan army as well as Chin people. Like there is a big project of Indian project in Palewa. There is like Palewa multimodal project, which is for the development of economic development of the whole northeastern part of India. It's a big project. So Arakan army has the political aim of confederate level or independent country. So to get that object, to get that goal, Arakan army need recognition from neighboring country, at least like India, Bangladesh. To get that recognition, Arakan army need Palawa. The whole Rakhine state is like now closed. Like all the trade, all the road has been blocked from the mainland by the military junta. But and Bangladesh also they don't have a good connectivity, good road between Bangladesh and Rakhine State. But through now Palawa, AA Arakan Army is carrying a lot of things like basic commodity, rice, food through Palawa. So the trade is now has opened, like informal trade has been happening. Now like it's increasing day by day. The volume of the trade is increasing. The Rakhine State and India is now like doing the trade now informally. I mean, so if Arakan Army does not control Palawa, uh, Arakan Army will not be able to access like to the India. That's why Arakan Army is like require Palawa for its survival, for achieving their political objective. Similarly, what happened is the Chin people also like claiming this is a part of Chin state, and Arakan Army should stop. They should not stay in Palawa. They should not install like their governance, their education system, their judicial system in Palawa, because this is historically and in talking about in any other ways, it's a part of Chin state. So Arakan Army should promise the Chin people that they will go back to Rakhine State after starting. I mean the whole revolution period. So it's a bit complex and it's sensitive as well, and it's very deep. So yeah, I think that's all I can say.
Do you think that the Chin armed group's tolerance for Arakan Army control of Balewa is contingent on the Arakan Army's military successes in Rakhine State? I mean, they are just winning and winning and winning and have taken over the vast majority of the state from the Myanmar military, and they're still on a positive trajectory. If that was to change, do you think that these Chin armed groups might view the AA, the Arakan Army in Balewa, a little bit differently?
Mm. Yeah, one of their argument from the Arakan Army for controlling Palawa and for staying in Palawa is that they are building the security parameter. That is like Arakan Army is now not only they are not doing military operation in within Rakhine State, but also in many part of the country, Burma, the whole Burma. Similarly, they have alliance with Chin Brotherhood, but they are against with Chilean Council. That's also very another issue, big issue. So they support militarily and training and so many. They are giving so many support to like Chin Brotherhood, especially Mindat, CDF Mindat, which is one of the most powerful in Chin State. So the argument is that they are supporting because they want to build a security parameter so that the military junta cannot come back and take the Rakhine State. Because if they want to come back to Rakhine State, now they have to pass through CDF Mindat or Chin Brotherhood first. Then only they can reach to Rakhine State. So Arakan Army is doing that. Even in Makwe, Sakai, they are supporting many local PDF. Now, if they want to come through Makwe military junta, they have to pass through those local. So they are like doing systematically, politically, security, militarily, like so that they will achieve their political goal. But as you mentioned, if there's a backward, if they lost the war in Rakhine State, yeah, there's a possibility, but there's a less like there's unlikely to happen that backward, because now there's a very strong, like they are winning day every day, they are winning many battle every day. So I think they will be able to achieve and not backward. I mean within like a few years, like 10 years, something like that. Maybe after that, I don't know. Yeah.
Thank you so much for those extra insights. They're really great. But I want to bring the conversation back to your article and the reason why you're here, which is the plight of the refugees in Mizoram. I want to ask you if there are any organizations that listeners could contact, or if people could get in contact with you maybe to help out these people in a more tangible way.
Even in Mizoram, there are 9 districts, and among 9 districts, all refugees are living across the 9 districts, but the majorly they live in 5 districts. That is Seha, Long Klai, Lung Lei, and Aizawl and Champhai. The rest is like less than 100 refugee living in another district. But majorly they're living in 5 districts. And out of 5, if we look at the Saiha district, is Saiha and Long Thai is like very far from the capital of Aizawl. So like some organization they came, some donor, individual donor, organization donor, they came to Mizoram with the aim of supporting the refugee, but they couldn't reach to Saiha because it's like very far. They have to travel more than 10 hours. So yeah, there are a few organizations working in Seha for the refugee, like including I was a part of before, like that group, that organization, like established by the refugee themselves, Chin Youth, like Lakher Social Welfare Foundation is there. Those people, there are I think around 10,000 refugees living in that district, Seha district, and they are receiving less support than other district. I would say I personally, because that's the remote and the distance is very far. So yeah, through I mean, the Care Social Welfare Foundation, if you are interested to support, if you want to support, you can reach out to them, and the website is there. Their website is there. The Facebook page is there.
Great, thanks for that contact. And I'll put the details, the website of that organization, in the show notes. So look below this podcast for that. All right. Thank you so much, R. Lakher, for coming on to What's Happening in Myanmar and for being our solo guest this week. Your insights have been really helpful, and I hope you had a good time on the show like I had hosting you.
So I just would like to say thank you very much for this opportunity. Yeah, I think we need to raise the voice for the voiceless, like refugee in Mizoram is less supported. Anyone who are listening to this, if they would like to support, if they would like to know more about refugee in Mizoram, yeah, you can always reach out to through me, or yeah, you can always contact.
Great, and I'll put your contact details in the show notes as well. That will bring this episode to a close. As always, we really welcome your feedback, listeners, so please email whimyanmar@proton.me or just check the show notes for the email link. And before I sign off, let me reveal that there are some great new features also now up on frontiermyanmar.net, including how a transnational hip-hop collective is rapping against dictatorship, and what the future of rare earth mining in the borderlands of Myanmar could be. So enjoy those, and until next week, farewell and take care.